Good morning. I go by Action on the internet. I've been Action on YouTube since 2006. Everyone in the tarot space knows me as Action, so as I come into the cartomancy space, I figure I should take the same moniker. I love this group. Okay. When I was learning this shit, when I was like 20, I didn't know it was a real science. I didn't know it was a real art form. I didn't know what I was doing. And so I kept it secret because it was like, I just thought it was the most irrational thing to tell someone. I made this decision because this is what the cards told me. Okay, in 2007, 2008, divination was not as commonplace as it is now. And I don't think a single one of my friends had a deck of tarot cards. And if they did, they didn't tell anybody about it. Okay? And I didn't know anything about cartomancy in 2007 and 2008. I was just alone, excuse me, after like playing cards and drinking beers all night with the guys. And we were playing these card games, your spades, euchre. And they taught us this one called Casino. It was a lot of fun. It was very interesting, but it was difficult for me. And so I would practice and practice and practice late at night. And I'm in my 20s, so I'm not sober. In the night, under the influence, the cards started talking to me. I've been using intuitive guidance ever since I saw the movie Braveheart with Mel Gibson, because the Irish guy is talking to God the whole time. And I thought that was funny. I grew up in the church, but my family, we got excommunicated. And so I've always had a Christian mentality. And so when I came to spiritualism, I didn't really know what was right or wrong about God. So I figured, why not just try to talk to God like the crazy Irishman in Braveheart? And so that's what I did ever since I was like 14, 15 or whatever. And my life unfolded as this wild, active spirit because of it. I mean, I devoted myself. As a suicidal person, what do you have to lose? You don't have anything to lose. So why not test it? And so I can't say accidentally because it was very intentional, but my life became an act of faith because the other opportunity was death. That being said, here we are, 2026, 19 years later. I had a medical accident that ruptured my memory recall system. Through several years of focused meditation, I was able to regain access to my lost memories. And when I did, I remembered this. I remember that I used to read these cards and help me decide what I was going to do with my day, because I was living a very dangerous lifestyle and I had no guidance, direction, or anyone to call. I'm making this video to explain slightly what I'm doing and also to say thank you to a user in the group, because I almost gave up in here. I don't typically play well with others, not through fault of my own, but because apparently to look at me and hear me speak is a challenge to the ego of the common earthling. And through no fault of my own, I rub people the wrong way, sometimes through fault of my own. But there was a user about 2 months ago, TheWayYouWrite. And they asked me for a reading. And that meant something to me. So I came for your reading. You gave us your date of birth. And that doesn't mean anything to me. I can open into your energy field just by focusing on you. I've done a couple of readings for people. I've done a couple of interpretations for people here. And sometimes they work out pretty well. So I have high hopes. This is going to be my first live reading and maybe my only live reading in this group. I'm not here to promote myself, but I do have links in my profile to my Patreon where I read for my own collectives. And I wanted to tell you guys, everybody that's starting out, I'm trying to create a guide on YouTube. That's how I started, just off of my own intuitive guidance, and then how I've combined that with a system that I found online that was the closest thing to what I found intuitively. That's why I cling so closely to the blog spot, because it has the same rules that I learned intuitively in the night on my own when I was a kid. So now here I am, almost 40, going through it again, and I'm using the blog spot. That being said, we're going to get into what does The Way You Write need for their own intuitive guidance in this moment. How can we best assist our associate? Oh, the deck of the day presides in session. And the rule on my table is if a card falls out, if things fall out, that's fine. If they're face down, they get shuffled back in the deck. If they're face up, they're part of the reading. I'm gonna do a 4-card. This is my personal style of reading. Okay. I typically do a 3-card past, present, future. I like past, present, and future format. But what I find very useful is to pull 2 cards for the past. So I have a better idea of where I'm coming from, to know what the present yields or where I am, so that I can best ascertain where I'm going in my future. In my future, I will also, I'll pull from the bottom of the deck. I'll pull 5 cards off the bottom of the deck. It doesn't matter. But I consider those to be expansions on the future cards. We could talk about that in the comments if you'd like. The topic is communication in your wealth space, your resources. 6 of diamonds is appeared for you. When I read for another person, I put this card down blind, just so I know that it's not my reading, just for me. Okay, so we've got the 6 of diamonds as your past. Also serves as a topic. 6s are communication or failure in communication with numerology. Diamonds, the way that I read, are about your money, your resources, the flow of energy around you. Your past is a success in your work, in your professional work or your passion projects. Your present, categorized by the 9 of clubs. It's a wonderful situation to be in. So you're coming from a communication about your resources, and you're moving into a present that has to do with a grand success in your professional life. Congratulations. Well, let's take us to the future. Maybe is there a hiccup, or are we just celebrating your achievements? Oh, an expansion in your heart space. An expansion in your romantic relationships, platonic relationships, potentially your familial relationships. Flowing from clubs to hearts. Flowing from labor to love. A happy outcome or developing emotions. Did you meet somebody? Did somebody meet you? Let's look at our hidden card, our buried card. So we started out with the 6 of clubs. Clubs to hearts, the Jack of hearts. Okay, the Jack can represent a young person. The Jack can represent your internal thoughts on a matter. The Jack is sitting in the suit of hearts. So the Jack is sitting in your heart space. The Jack is sitting here depicting relationships. Okay, so you have a communication about your resources, a communication about money, a individual, a platonic or romantically inclined individual, success in work, expansion in love. Diamonds to hearts is a relationship that expands in unison. Diamonds to hearts, yeah, sharing money, rewards, positive attraction. This reading speaks of developing emotions and a collaboration in regards to your resources. So when face cards appear and they say the court cards typically tend to represent other people, I enjoy that possibility. But I also like to look at the cards as though the relationship is with yourself. So the Jack of Hearts can also be your internal thought processes, your inner child, getting in tune better with yourself. So it's not always, it can be. It can be another person coming in to communicate with you about your resources, to help you achieve this in your work, to be the expansion in your heart space. It is possible that there is a person, an actual and factual person coming into your life to make things better. But there's also the potential that a greater understanding or a greater relationship with yourself brings you these abundant enhancements in your life. This is a great reading. You're going to communicate with someone about money, right? Positive attraction, sharing money with potentially an individual, a passionate individual that you know, a lover or a friend or a family member. And you're successful in your communication. Whatever you guys talk about, whatever you decide to team up about, it works. It works. Hearts to clubs. Okay. And hearts to clubs speaks. I like to use it as a philanthropic situation because it says service to others. So any business, any good, you know what I'm saying? Typically when you're creating a product, when you're doing something, when you have a job, you are solving a problem, fulfilling a need. Service to others, right? So this makes me think that the reading is in fact talking about a real person coming in to help you with a real situation that you are doing. And it may not just be about yourself, but those options are always there. Regardless of the fact, it works. It works. Some people will tell you that since 3 is a smaller number, that the expansion is small, but a 7 will give you an improvement as well. But when you're looking at the numerology of a 3, it's an expansion or the opposite of an expansion, a detraction. And there's no value of that. There's no impact value implied in that. For me personally, some people will be like, oh, the 3 of hearts is here, but it's not a high heart card. So maybe the relationship, the expansion in your heart space is not as grand as it would have been if this was a 7 or a 9 of hearts. And it's like, buddy, come on, dude. You know what I'm saying? There's only 13 cards in each suit. Like, I think, but everybody reads different, and that is great. Okay. I love that a lot of us come from a strict sense of intuitive guidance. And I also love how some of us come from a very strict adherence to their own protocols and routines in reading. I am just coming back to this within the last 8, 9 months of my life. And so, what I'm not here to do is present myself as an authority figure in this space, but I am an incredibly passionate practitioner. So, whatever holes are in my game, we will be fixing them. Whatever knowledge I need to glean, we will be acquiring it. And I'm doing this journey publicly, and I hope that you guys all join me. But to show respect to the group, I'm not here to promote myself. I wanted to say thank you to the user, TheWayYouWrite, for asking me for this reading. Okay, and I hope you got something out of it. I wanted to show you guys what I read like, in case you wanted to see more or you had any questions. And I really just wanted to open the floor up so that we could communicate about our information and our journeys in reading without a ton of scrutiny and self-imposed limitation. Okay, because we can all be in this together. Right? There is a ton of us in here. Okay, and we can just build our own university around this art form, because it's a lost art and we're reviving it. You and me and the 10,000 people in this group. Okay? So in that regard, I feel that we have somewhat of a responsibility, somewhat of a duty to uncover this art form, to reinvent this science, to make cartomancy just as commonplace as tarot. That is my goal, and I hope that sits well with you. I'm not sure what it'll look like, my interaction and activity in this group going forward, but I'm here to stay. Have a great day.